All right, welcome to the daily. Well, actually, welcome to the weekly ish, the ish that you need to be doing to actually get good at what you're trying to do. This week's the focus is commitment, right? And from a commitment standpoint, what does that mean? That means showing up at the time that you say that you're going to show up. That is the weekly emphasis for today, for this week. So now we're going to break down what that means overall from a boxing, strength, and nutrition standpoint. And we have three demographics that we're speaking to at this point. We're going to go ahead and speak to ex-athletes. We're going to speak to current athletes and fighters, and we're also going to go ahead and speak to women who want to go ahead and be strong, curvy, and athletic. So what we're doing this week first, from a boxing emphasis for everybody, we always work on one of three things, but there are four emphases this week. The first one is what are we doing with our hands, and specifically, it's what are we doing with our offhand as we punch, and specifically with that, what we're doing with our hand as we jab. So for most of you in the orthodox stance, that would be what you do with your right hand as you jab. For those who are in the southpaw stance, it's going to be what you do with your left hand as you jab. Now, it's not only just putting your hand on your face, it's actually changing your arm angle according to your opponent's shoulders. We'll talk more in detail about that, but that is the overview of what we're focusing on with our hands this week. The next thing is what we're focusing on with our feet. That is ground contact and explosiveness. So if you notice, when we do individual steps, there is a quick moment where your feet are in the air. We want to make sure that we limit that amount of time in the air so we have ground contact so we can do our next thing. So that's going to be our focus on feet this week. Last thing is our head position, or focusing on what we do with our head, specifically our head slot, knowing where your head is as you punch, when you punch, and after you punch, according to your position and your stance that you'd like to go ahead and be in. That is the emphasis of what we're doing with boxing this week, and that is for all three demographics, all three of you. The next thing we're going to talk about is what we're doing from a nutrition standpoint. There are three focuses that we're having on nutrition this week. Protein. Everybody knows that you do have to have an adequate amount of protein according to your goals. However, we are focusing this week on choosing the proteins that you like, the protein sources. Because if you don't like the protein sources, it's going to be very hard for you to adhere and stick to your diet. So pick 3 to 4 protein sources. Greek yogurt's a source, fish is a source, chicken is a source. If you're vegan or vegetarian, you have to figure out your own source and how that works. I have some options for you that you can think of as well, like tofu, seitan. Those are some of your protein options. Now, for carbs, that is another emphasis that we have this week, and specifically carbs around your workout, because that's going to fuel your training, and figuring out your timing for you. If you wake up early and you don't have time to eat a carb-rich meal like an hour or 3 hours before your workout, then now we're going to work in like the fast carbs, but you are figuring out what carbs will feel for you in and around your workout. The last thing that we're going to focus on is health. Specifically healthy fats. The reason why we're focusing on those things is that helps you with your hormonal imbalance. So find out fats that work for you, that you enjoy, that you can go ahead and add to your meals. And once again, that's for all three demographics. That's what we're focusing on from a nutrition standpoint. Now, strength and conditioning, this is where we'll tear things down. However, you guys are focusing on similar exercises and workouts, but there is a different reason for that, right? So first, let's go ahead and start with ex-athletes, but then also current athletes and fighters, because you guys are doing the same thing, just for different reasons. So single leg hip thrust. That is going to be one of the exercises that you focus on. That is predominantly for your posterior chain, because strength does go ahead and start from the ground up. Athleticism does go ahead and start from the ground up. And single leg hip thrusts are going to help you with that power imbalance that you may have, and fixing any type of strength issues you have with one leg or one part of your body to the other. So that's what we're doing from a strength and exercise standpoint. Now, the second thing that we're going to focus on right now is athleticism and explosiveness. And specifically, that is going to be A-skips. It's a low-level plyometric that we would add on a vertical day. The emphasis with that is to understand ground contact once again, how you can go ahead and transfer and generate power from the top down. Better athlete mixed with your skills is going to be better for you overall. Ex-athletes, you know what it feels like to go ahead and be athletic and what it means for the entirety of your day. So we have the A-skips that we're doing. We also have the single leg hip thrust that we're doing. And lastly is going to be an upper body posterior chain movement, and it's going to be a seated row. This is predominantly for your lats that help you with your punch. Pushing and pulling. Your back is involved with that. And we also want to take a little bit of emphasis away from your shoulders if we're focusing on boxing all day. But those are your 3 areas of emphasis for both ex-athletes and current athletes and fighters. Now, women, what we're doing today for you is, or this week for you, you guys have a glute dominant movement that you're focusing on, but it is single leg landmine RDL. Kind of similar emphasis. You're focusing on any imbalances that you may have, but particularly in the posterior chain, growing your glutes, right? You guys are also working on seated row because when it comes to your waist, it's not just your abs. It's going to go ahead and be your obliques, which is your side. It's also going to be your lower back, which is your lats, and then even your erectors and your upper glutes include that. So if we want to have a tiny waist to go and accentuate the Coke Bio physique, we need to make sure that we're taking care of your back as well. So seated row will help you out with that. Also, you guys have A-skips. The reason why we're doing A-skips for you is because you want to be athletic, curvy, and strong. So you do need to practice the movement that does make you a little bit more athletic. That is A-skips help with sprint technique, but overall athleticism as well. So you guys have single leg landmine RDLs. You guys are doing seated row as well. And then we're also doing A-skips. We understand what we're focusing on, so those are the three things that we have. What are we doing from a boxing standpoint? What are we doing from a nutrition standpoint? And what are we doing from a strength standpoint? Remember, with all these things, the emphasis for you is commitment. So we're looking at what are we tracking this week, right? You should be tracking your protein, the amount of protein that you're having daily, right? We're not going to get into tracking everything completely, but bare minimum this week, let's go ahead and track your protein. We're also tracking the number of times you start a workout. We're not doing the complete tracking of the workout, but when you start, and that's based on if I'm starting on Monday at 5 a.m., I need to understand and track the fact that I did start my workout at 5 a.m. We're not doing the full completion off of that, right? So we're also working on jab reps, right? So I would say for you guys this week, when you are focusing on the jab, get at least 100 a day. 100 in your workout, and treat it like you would from a strength and conditioning standpoint. Split it up with reps, and you guys can do that at the end of your workout when you're working on punch technique, but you are tracking your jab reps this week. So those are the three things that we're focusing on to get better. It's the actual things that you have to do this week to get good at what you're trying to go ahead and get good at. The newsletter is going to be in the description for you. If you want the full entire workout, which is the sets, reps, breakdown from a boxing, strength and conditioning to a nutrition standpoint with how to calculate your macros, your grocery list, all that, click the free link that is 60 seconds for you so we can figure out which demographic you need to be in according to what you would like. But that is this week's ish, the ish that you actually have to do to get better at what you're doing. I'll see you on the next one.